Hello, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. It's been a while since I've made a video. I've been busy. I've had a lot of mail in my inbox to go through, and it's summertime and I've been playing with the grandkids, so that's always fun. Well, our last video, number 247, we talked about the storm that came up on the sea, and we also learned from that chapter that there were little boats with Jesus, but we don't hear anything about those little boats ever again. Well, anyway, it was that scene where the disciples had to wake up Jesus, and they were afraid of dying in the sea because the storm had come up. And so he stood up, rebuked the storm, and then said, "Why are you guys so timid?" So we talked about timidity. Well, that was just a lesson that Jesus was giving his disciples because he knew what was going to be happening when they got to the other side of the sea. They were going to see a storm coming from a man that had been living in the tombs. And Jesus did not want them to be timid. So today's video is called Cast Out Legions Like a Boss. And we're going to find out who will get to do that. When will that happen? Well, so we're going to look at Mark chapter 5, start out with verse 1, and it's going to be kind of an expository teaching today. I love doing that. So Mark chapter 5, verse 1, New American Standard Bible. They came to the other side of the sea into the country of the Gerasenes. Now that was in the Decapolis area, and Deca stands for 10, and polis is cities. So there's 10 cities in that area. Verse 2, when he got out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met them. And we see that it's one man, and it says an unclean spirit. So it's just talking about one. Okay, verse 3, and he had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one was able to bind him anymore, even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. So what this is telling us, at some point in the past, this man was not strong enough to break the chains and the shackles, and people were able to subdue him. But now something has happened. As he's been living out in the tombs, he's grown stronger and stronger, scarier and scarier, and no one can even chain him up. I mean, can you imagine if you're the guard that says, "Hey, it's your turn to go chain him up"? "No, I'm not going to chain him up. You go chain him up." I mean, he was like a mad dog, no doubt. I wouldn't want to try and approach a mad dog. And so also we notice he's living in the tombs, and notice this is very expensive beachfront property. I mean, shoot, no one can go have a picnic at the beach, on this beach anyway, because of this man that was so terrorizing and violent. So this is a real problem. And imagine this poor man living like that. Verse 5, constantly, day and night, he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains and gashing himself with stones. So he's gashing himself, he's bloody, he's probably got dried blood on him. Verse 6, seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran up and bowed down before him. So this unclean spirit recognizes God, the Son of God, runs up to him. Now, imagine the disciples that have gotten out of the boat. Imagine Jesus and the disciples, they're on the shore, and this madman comes running up to them. Well, no doubt the disciples, their adrenaline was pumping by then, right? Verse 7, and shouting with a loud voice, he said, "What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God, do not torment me." Okay, this is fascinating. We learn here that demons know God is a Trinity. These demons, because now it's plural, we see here in verse 7, it started out at the beginning of this chapter, an unclean spirit. Well, now in verse 7, we see there's more than one unclean spirit. They know who Jesus is. He's the Son of the Most High. He is God, and he knows that a day is coming when God is going to torment him. And he is not wanting that to happen. So I find this fascinating because there's a lot of people that don't think Jesus is God. They think he's a nice person. They think he's a prophet, a very wise, good man. But even the demons know he is God. And they come up to him and bow down before him, because demons know they must bow before God. Verse 8, for he had been saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. So Jesus had been saying to an unclean spirit, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And what's interesting is we get the impression here in verse 8 that Jesus had been repeatedly trying to cast out this unclean spirit. Isn't that interesting? Even Jesus couldn't just say it one time and have the unclean spirit come out. Verse 9, and he was asking him, so Jesus was asking him, what is your name? And he said to him, my name is Legion, for we are many. So now we get a confirmation there's more than one unclean spirit in this man. In fact, there is a legion. Well, Lynn looked up what a legion consists of. It's 3,000 to 6,000 foot soldiers plus a cavalry. That's what a Roman legion is, 3,000 to 6,000 foot soldiers and a cavalry. Verse 10, and he began to implore him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Okay, in verse 10 we're seeing that there is a spokesperson for this legion of demons, and he is the one imploring Jesus earnestly not to send them out of the country. Well, this was Gentile country, and they were able to prosper and find rest in this country. So isn't it interesting that in this poor man, there is all these demons, and one of them has set himself apart as the leader of them. Verse 11, now there was a large herd of swine feeding nearby on the mountain. Okay, so mountains stand for governments, so we learned that they're by a government. And they're feeding, these swine are feeding. Now swine are likened to the Gentiles, because Gentiles were allowed to eat pork. They were allowed to eat swine. Just the Jews were not. The Gentiles could. It was perfectly legal for Gentiles. Verse 12, the demons implored him, saying, send us into the swine so that we may enter them. And they prefer to live in men. That's where they can best express themselves, and that's where they seem to have rest. So they were willing, if they're going to be cast out, they didn't want to be tormented. It wasn't the time for that yet, but that time is coming. But we see that they are so terrified that they now won't work through their one leader demon. Now the demons in the man, they're all interceding for themselves. They're panicking. They're terrified. They know what could happen. So they are interceding on their own behalf at this point, negotiating their optimum choice. And so they said, just send us there. So they know God has the power to send them anywhere he wants to. So they've made a petition. They're praying. Well, isn't that interesting? Demons are praying to God and asking that they may enter those pigs. So verse 13, Jesus gave them permission, and coming out, the unclean spirits entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000 of them, and they were drowned in the sea. So no doubt there were far more than 2,000 demons, so many of them jumped into each swine, but we know that 2,000 swine went over the edge and into the sea that day. And so I want to point out that they went into the sea, and we know that later a beast is going to come out of the sea, the marine kingdom. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before. Kristen, with the channel Prophecy with Kristen, she and I are working on a project together, and we're going to be doing a live stream together because we want to go real deep with the marine kingdom and that beast that's going to come out of the sea. We're excited to put that together for you. So I hope you will be watching for that. Okay, now I want to kind of talk about the prophetic layer of this passage. In Revelation 6:3, we read, "When he broke the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, 'Come.' And another red horse went out, and to him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth, and that men would slay one another, and a great sword was given to him." So at this point, when that red horse goes forth, men are slaying men. They're slaying each other. These are not creatures doing the slaying. These are not locusts acting as scorpions, biting and stinging people. People are not dying of plagues or guillotines. They are slaying each other. And this is a global situation. Now it says peace will be taken from the earth. Well, that word peace is G1515, and it means prosperity, quietness, rest. The word slay is G4969. It means to butcher an animal for food or in sacrifice, or to slaughter, or to maim violently, to kill and to wound. So this red horse, oh, that's going to be awful. So when does this happen? Well, if you ever have listened to Russ Dizdar, the late Russ Dizdar, he talks about the Black Awakening. Men coming out of the underground military complex. Oh, kind of like coming out of the tombs. They are super soldiers. They have gone through programs and given alternate identities, alternate personalities, and they are focused. They are trained as soldiers. And Russ Dizdar tells us that this isn't what he came up with. He's heard this from many super soldiers all around the world. Did you know on every U.S. military base there is an occult center? Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever heard about these underground military bases. Some people call them DUMBs, Deep Underground Military Bases. That's what DUMB, DUMB, stands for. Could it be that this is the red horse in action when these super soldiers who've been trained to kill come out? Yeah, and they're going to be looking for Christians because that's what they've told Russ Dizdar. They're looking for Christians. That's who they have a beef against. Well, Russ Dizdar calls this the Dark Awakening, and that it is the red horse released after the rapture. Okay, now, I suggest to you it'll be after the pre-trib rapture. When Jesus and the disciples got in the boat to cross over to the Decapolis, it says there were boats with him. I think that is the pre-trib raptured bride that is hidden. And I'm thinking, it's my opinion at this time, and you might see something different. I'm open to other ideas, but it's my opinion that after the pre-trib rapture, there's going to be the Black Awakening, the Dark Awakening. I think the super soldiers are going to be coming out of these deep underground military bases, and they're going to be hunting down Christians, and there's going to be a great persecution of Christians and much slaughtering. You know, it's not fun to talk about, it's not fun to think about. But what Jesus is teaching us through this passage, there as he's at the country of the Gerasenes, is that these demons can be cast out of these military men. Now, right now, I don't know if there's anybody strong enough to cast out a legion of demons out of one man. But I'm thinking, after that pre-trib rapture of the bride, during that first half of the tribulation, that first 3.5 years, there's going to be a situation where the red horse is set loose. These super soldiers come out of the tombs. Each one of these super soldiers are going to be filled with demons, filled with legions. The church better not be timid. The church better start now. All of us. You know, we don't know who's going to go up pre-trib and who isn't. I'm preparing myself if I'm left behind. I hope not. But nothing is for sure for any of us right now. So I'm working on not being timid. I'm putting myself in this scenario. I want to be able to cast out legions like a boss. And I'm hoping that those who do go up pre-trib are going to be the power pack behind me. The legions of angels supporting me, that when I speak forth in faith to be cast out, that my faith stirs the pre-trib raptured bride, and she will come with power, and she will yank those ugly, filthy, unclean spirits out of each one of these super soldiers, and that they will get saved. Oh, that's an interesting twist in the plan. The red dragon doesn't want this, of course. I think this is why, he reads the scriptures. He knows prophecy better than probably any of us. He is trying to prevent as many people as possible from going up pre-trib. And then we see that in Revelation 12:5, after he's had a dose of seeing the pre-trib rapture bride in her glory and seeing what she can do, he's going to really be trying to prevent that mid-trib rapture of the man-child. See, that rapture of the man-child, Revelation 11 and 12, that's when you read that in context, that is a mid-trib scene. That is not a pre-trib scene. See, because at pre-trib, there's a lot of peace. We're still all able to preach the gospel with relative ease. For sure, there's some pockets here and there that are not able to preach the gospel how they want to. But a time is coming after that pre-trib rapture of the skilled helpmate bride. And those people going up, they are going to be not only providers of food and water, because there's going to be a famine and a drought. So we don't want the church to be signing up for government programs and selling their soul to the government. This is why it's so important to tell people there's more than one rapture. So the pre-trib raptured bride, she's going to be bringing food and water. But then there's going to be a portion in that bridal company of skilled helpmates. They are going to be protectors. Think of that as our husbands, who are protectors of the household. Yeah, so with that entire pre-trib rapture of the skilled helpmate bride, there are going to be providers and protectors, all of us working together, kind of that male-female energy, that male-female spirit going forth. So this is why, for me, in case I don't go up pre-trib, I am working on making sure I'm not too timid to command those legions to come out of these super soldiers, knowing that those who are raptured pre-trib are going to be the power pack and yanking them out and protecting me and my household. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about casting out demons. Just some tips, helpful tips. When it comes to rebuking demons and casting them out of people, what you want to do is you want to look at the person that you are ministering to. Don't close your eyes, me looking away. No, you look at the person that has the demon in them, and you address the demon, the unclean spirit. You don't need to address the spirit of the person that's standing in front of you that is the victim, that's being oppressed. With your eyes open, you command the demon to come out. And I want you to yell at that demon, speak to that demon with a firm, authoritative voice. Do not be timid. Ladies, have you ever had the neighbor's dog come into your yard and start chewing on your flowers? Well, my issue is I've got deer. We've got herds of deer that come over and they are chewing on everything. So I have to run out there and I am commanding them with a loud, authoritative voice to get out of here. And they jump up. It's hilarious because my power and authority coming from my little body, sometimes I'm in my pajamas and slippers, it just startles them, it scares them. So you have to be very offensive. Behave offensively when you are casting out demons. Take authority over them. You have authority over them. All right, that's all I'm going to share for now. I hope you have enjoyed this. It's a little bit different. And And I hope you look forward to the live stream that Kristen and I put forth for you. We're going to share a lot of wild, crazy ideas, some things we're percolating on, some research we have done about just a lot of different subjects. A lot about that beast system that comes out of the sea. I think you're going to be very interested. This is all for now. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I will talk to you later. Bye.